Caribbean radio station in London. It seems to me that the new president is putting more implementation down, and that will help us in the grid. But let's go all the way to our home studio where we got our own Mr. Life Koiki already to play on all cylinders. It is not ready, you can. It's like nothing, it seems like it's frozen. Come with us whilst we try to get the power up. Okay, I think now we got him with that. Okay, let's take this quick commercial break and then we bring it to you. This is from the NHS.
Hi, I'm Adam Williams and I'm an NHS pharmacist. Don't get caught out by COVID this summer. If you've only had one COVID-19 vaccination or haven't had one at all, you can still get a free vaccine until the 30th of June. Book your vaccine through the NHS app online at nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119 for free.
Welcome back to the program. Star Radio UK, on a Caribbean radio station in London. And it is my singular honor to introduce you once again the white lion himself, Mr. Lion Koiki. I love my studios on this Friday morning, where it's all ready to fire on all cylinders. Mommy, good morning. Well, good morning to you, Mr. Archie. Good morning to all our listeners and viewers from around the world, and welcome once again, to the finest African and Caribbean radio station in London, and it is the Star Radio UK. I believe we're having a bit of, let's say. Yeah, I think your image is frozen. Yeah, it's gonna come back on. I think it's from my end. Let's see if we can get that back. Bear with us just for a few minutes and see if we can bring that back on quickly. Yeah, I think it's back on now. Yes, sir. Well, the family are doing all right. As we do know that some of them have been running through the exam. So exam is now almost over. So it is also the weekend. And while you were saying how's the family, are always, worried more about the family in Nigeria, because Nigeria is where we get concerned because of our people on the ground. I mean, a £1.40 will buy you 500 grams of spaghetti, 5 of that at 28p. Looking at the magazine received from the NUJ this morning, or yesterday rather, talking about the help that is available, for freelance journalists and those that can also get the help. So the family here, even though we know inflation and things are happening, but we tend to be much more concerned about the family in Nigeria. And when I say family, it's not literally your immediate family. We are more concerned about every single Nigerians that are going through what they called food crisis, security crisis, inflation, household, and all these were part of the help that is available, like I said, for those that are freelance, journalists. As we do know, the government have been helping with the energy bills, the household bill, the business support. So how do we make sure that our government, when we say government, people tend to look at it from Bola Tinubu, the president. No, we talked about your governor, the deputy governor, the senator, the House of Rep, the speaker, the deputy speaker, the local government chairman, and likewise as well, the community and the society. So the family on the other side here is okay, but the family on the other side, it's all about under pressure, like Raskimono will say. Well, as we say, under pressure, Nigerians under pressure, Africans under pressure, whatever happens. And we're part of the government as well. That's the first thing.
part of it, that's when you contribute to it, right? Okay, but the PMO is worried about low revenues as Nigeria debt nears 81 trillion naira. Now, I don't know 81 trillion naira what it converts to in dollars. I think how many billions of dollars there? Or, no, it will be trillion. It will be in the trillion. Yeah. Show me.
Well, there's a lot of debt in Nigeria, and one thing that the government is looking for now is to find as much money to solve this problem. How Nigeria will be able to solve that debt problem, because it is the debt of a country that has, what we can call whether there's a functioning system, like I mentioned at the beginning. So this morning, according to the figure that have arrived based on the 2022 Debt Sustainability Analysis Report by the Debt Management Office, according to the Debt Office, there is an increase in the total public debt to the GDP of 37.1% in 2023 from 23.4% as at September 2022, was due to the inclusion of an estimated 8.8 trillion 2023 debt that the government weighs and means debt of over 23 trillion. Now there's estimate promissory note insurance of 2. So the debt continued to rise because there is still government running, and that literally means that the president is looking for funds. Is currently in Paris, the Global Summit Pact, and the federal government will be unable to borrow a lot as it is near its self-imposed debt limit of 40% according to the DMO Debt Management Office. But you were talking about what it means, when we bring it down to the dollar rate in terms of the figure. You're talking about whether we would even be able to get any more loan from the outside world, from the Chinese, the AfriBank, the African Development Bank, and likewise, the loan that are coming from the Arab country as well, because we are now almost 40% exhausting what we called borrowing. And it is good to borrow if you are using that money for the right purpose and it's not being stolen away. Because this morning again, there's all kind of 7 billion theft at John Casey's. There's another one that I saw, $76 million cash all stockpile in an Abuja apartment. I'll be telling you more about that later.
Well, listen, it is now really UK, and let me say morning too. You can see your VI accountancy services, and the girls of you are being very, very well there. Now, as you were saying, it's good to borrow money because if you borrow and you utilize it, we get the money we went for whatever and a good negotiation there. Not paying too much interest there, and at least you get citizens. Getting whatever. So we take a typical case of the refinery by what's his name again?
Dangote.
Yeah, it's not his own pocket money that he used that. He's using whatever he has a surety, he's going to take a big loan to do that as well. So this is an investment. And we know that it will bear fruit or you will yield profit for him and you'll be able to. But when we see our countries going to go get loans and we don't see that people are not seeing the impact of it. And as you say, few people dip their hands in and just siphon it and just run up with it. They only have a big problem. But this is a case where they are thinking of increasing taxes in Nigeria. And some are saying that do not go on to increase taxes. Where will government get a revenue from then? Yeah.
Well, Nigeria don't like paying tax, and you got to pay tax wherever you are. Most companies, even here in UK, try to avoid the inland revenue, because that is the only way the government can run after them, to do what they call the services. When you go to number 10 Downing Street, just about a few meters away is the HMRC building. The federal government, like you said, implemented 3 days ago what we call the 7.5% VAT on diesel, but Nigerians kicked. I don't know why Nigerians are kicking, because if you want that services, you have to pay for it. But why Nigerians are kicking is that most of the time, Nigerians have paid so much into the government coffer, whether through the pension, whether through the VAT to the diesel. But how does this money end up to be used? Is been the question. But the federal government Monday this week confirmed that it has commenced the implementation of the payment of 7.5% value added tax on the automotive gas oil, popularly called diesel. In Nigeria, most vehicles are run on petrol. I mean, I sent a vehicle some few years ago, and it was a diesel vehicle, and it seems that the mechanics struggled to operate it. I would rather want to run a diesel vehicle here because it's a little bit more cheaper and a little bit more economical. But in Nigeria, everybody believes that the petrol is the better car. Even though the Lagos state is saying that they have brought in some buses, electric buses. I don't know how they're going to operate that, knowing fully well that Nigeria is not yet there, but it's also trying to look at the innovative. But this development was however condemned by Nigerians who has pointed out the citizens were still trying to adjust to the hike of the pump price of the premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, not knowing that there are plans being perfected to further raise payment of diesel. The question then is, where is the government going to find the money for the duty of care to Nigerians, especially the Bola Tinubu government is trying to bring back as much money into the coffers of the government? And the reason for that is so that we can be able to pay back our loan that we assured the international community when we were borrowing this money. However, the Ninth Senate of the Representatives would wound down without approving the loan request. Buhari took out so much loan that today Bola Tinubu will be able to find where to get those loans. And under the alternative scenario, the total public debt to the GDP ratio at about 45.4% in 2023 exceed Nigerian self-imposed debt limit of 40%. So already we have gone past our treasury of what we could get. But while the federal government debt service to revenue also exceed the recommendation treasury of 50%. So it seems that we are going too far way ahead when it comes to borrowing, and the government must find a way to reduce the borrowing that Nigerians are saying it will take 40 years to repay back the debt.
Well, to take 40 years to repay back the debt, who's going to be paying it at that time? But Bishop Adesina says revenue is now increased for the FAAC to share among component units from 655.9 billion naira to 1.2 trillion monthly allocation. The surplus is coming from proceeds of subsidy removal and foreign exchange. And then he says, Pastor Mo says, good morning as well. Pastor Mo, thank you for having you as well. Well, he says that citizens, I want to ask who is going to pay it. Bishop Adesina says citizens, of course.
And just to buttress on that, because I've got the news in front of me as well. The federal government, the state, the local government shares 786 billion naira last month in the revenue. Very large money, big chunk of money. Remember that then by the time you break it down, we have 774 local government across the country. How then is also the autonomy of making sure that whatever revenue goes to our local government is not also being held back by some of the governors. The Federal Allocation Committee says it has shared about 786.16 billion among the three tiers of the government last month. The figure represents an increase of 130 billion naira compared to the 655 in April. And like I said, it's because there's a little bit of chunk of money through the subsidy. Remember that Nigerian government is paying out 400 billion naira every month towards the subsidy. That's about almost $10 billion last year. The FEC actually disclosed this in a communique that was issued late last night in Abuja. On Thursday, the meeting was shared by the new Accountant General Federation, Dr. Oluwatoyin Melvin. The total amount include gross statutory revenue, value-added tax, argumentation from the forex, non-oil mineral revenue, electronic money transfer levies. The communique said the 786.16 billion total was distributable revenue comprises distributable circuitry. But Nigerians hear this money. I mean, we are saying there's 700 and something billion to be shared. The question is, how do you get the support? And like I said, looking at that record that I was reviewing this morning, from the article that was sent to me by the NUJ, was telling me that, if I am in crisis, these are the way you can get support, from the business support to the loan to the secretary pay to the universal credit. How do an average Nigeria somewhere in Plateau State can walk to the local government and say, look, I am in crisis, whether for food need, business need, and they can get support? This is where the government is not literally operating on the grassroots.
Well, this is interesting development from there. But whilst we're crying about money, scavengers have carted away $4 million from $76 million cash out stockpiled in Abuja apartment by the NDIC manager Aisha Odariko, ex-PEM Secretary Mohammed Buhari. Now, you see, I've been asking lots of questions as to whether Tinubu taking their reins now is going to be going after various people. Because we know that it looks like, I remember Aisha Buhari did make a statement back in the day that Buhari at the time wasn't giving the free hand to be actually chasing or prosecuting people, or people who have linked state funds and stuff like that. So we say Tinubu coming in, and it looks like from day one he hit the ground running, trying to pursue people like that. And this is in a country where people are crying, and we look at the country's total death ratio, and we are talking about it that look, this is something that is going to come back to bite them one day. And Bishop Adesina says citizens are going to definitely pay for that. Tell me, what happened to this money? Where did they get it? How did they start it? And how was it discovered?
It's so painful that we have 130 million Nigerians that are struggling. And when I say struggling from every basic things of life. And by the time you hear that someone, two people, individuals, groups of people have decided to use Nigeria as their cash cow, or cash cow. These are the two faces. To your left is the woman. It doesn't make any difference. Aisha Odariko. She is the manager of the NDIC. I'm going to tell you the full meaning of that. That is the abbreviation. And Mohammed Kaira Dikwa is the ex-permanent secretary, the Federal Ministry of Finance. What we do know that a quarter of the scrap metal collected foraging for food during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic breached a gated duplex in a residential neighborhood southeast of Abuja city center. Remember that we're talking about, food that was meant to be delivered during the COVID. I've now cut away with about $4 million cash linked to the two federal civil servants, according to the report, based on the document and interview with the top law enforcement officials that briefed on the matter. Our master lead learned out the theft and the revelation that well-heeled Nigerians are still harbor vast quantities of mysterious cash indoors, despite broadly publicized recoveries of similar salt away in recent years. Started officials working on the case. Aisha Sadiq Odariko, a manager in charge of the Enterprise Risk Unity of the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, and Mohammed Kaira Dikwa, a retired permanent secretary at the Federal Ministry of Finance, have been the subject of the sprawling but concealed criminal investigation by the authorities for their role, guess what, in stockpiling about $76 million cash of unexplained origin. This is just unbelievable. But some say there's nothing unbelievable. Abacha stole so much, and these are still the same clan of people that are milking Nigeria very dry.
But let me talk about asset declaration regime under this constitution. Now, in this part of the world, if you want to do or embark on anything like that, there will be monitoring you. I mean, this auntie, you know that he's worth so much. The next moment, they find him buying a private jet and buying some flash building around where one of the poshest places. They're going to be finding out, did he win a lottery? What business has he entered into to get that? So when it comes to the asset declaration regime in Nigeria, how is it like? Because if these people are being checked, then people will not be able to cycle any state funds. Yeah.
Well, people are checked maybe if you're a governor, a president, but when it comes to these positions, you're quite right. They are meant to be checked. They are meant to be, look to say, declare your asset. But in reality, Mr. Archie, these are Nigerian, this is Africa. Asset declaration, even Bola Tinubu have not yet declared his own asset declaration as a president, not to talk about, the average, workers at this ministry, as you can see there. I mean, and sometimes they know where the money is moving from. They don't want it to move it through the banking sector. That is why, most Nigerians corrupt politicians and civil. I mean, it is only in Nigeria that a civil servant knows as a business. They've turned it into a business. So normally you should have these as a proposal, maybe where the money is moving around, but $76 million stashed somewhere. It's not new. Remember that Ibori had so much money stuck in his house here in London when he was busted until he spent time. He's back in the same government. So it is not unusual for us to hear this news, but it is just heartbreaking. She told detectives that there were 76 million in the building, out of which the boys have already stood as well 4 million. So, we call it Olegbe, Olegba. Even those that went to see that apartment have removed $4 million out of the 76 million.
Interesting. Africa, my goodness. Listen to Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London on the Friday edition of the morning show. The time now 11:29. But let me bring you one comment that Additional Relation has posted. It said the levies on Nigerian citizens are too much. And people are paying now, but government has no payback scheme to cushion the hard economy. The electricity, fuel, devaluation of the naira, commodity price hike, my goodness, name it, and they are all going up. And so, like Yomi said, but 130 million people are suffering. They are just trying to exist, not to live, exist. But well, what do you think can be done? Let's start ready again. Let's move on to some, another one. And it says, all these citizens suffer in order to balance Nigeria's economy when the people who look the nation openly are untouchable. The people may revolt before against the government, of course. When your pastor pushes against the wall and they are trying to siphon everything from you and you have nothing to give, all that you can do is just revolt. But we hope that doesn't get to that point. But people will rise up, but the government will will do diligence, whatever is happening, to pushing the lives of people. But listen, let's start with the UK. Yomi, unless you want to say something about that.
No, we're good to go.
All right, then. So now let's move on to some other stories making the round. Now, come next week, it's going to be the Eid. What the name of that one?
Yeah, the Eid. Yeah, you're right.
The Eid. Yeah. But the DSS is coming out to say that, look, they are signing warning that, look, there are terrorist threats that is going on in the country. Now, I don't know, the past dates, the past events like that, I don't know what has been done. But with this new service chiefs coming into office, are they going to now introduce maybe some soldiers or some security in all the mosques and all the churches and stuff like that, if there are any threats of the sort? No.
Well, intelligence gathering is about, finding out the threat and neutralize it as quickly as possible before it becomes a full-blown threat, to the citizens. So every security intelligence wants to know, who is doing something that will make harmful to the citizens. So, with the back behind me are the new security chiefs. We've seen, coordinated attack on the military in the last few days. Again, it's all about whether somebody is leaking their intelligent movement, and but the NSA has a lot of work to do, just as the DSS as well. But the Department of the State Services has now raised the alarm of planned attacks on worship and recreation centers before and during the Eid Cup celebration. This is not the first time that warning has been given to citizens. Even the international, diplomats, the international embassies, like the Americans or the UK, are always warning their citizens to avoid a lot of gatherings. And the reason for that is nothing more than the fact that we have as many elements of people that wants to make disruption. Is saying in your state has been bashed back to back in the last few days. They've even cried out to Dr. Chief Sunday Igboho to come and rescue them, even though they have a governor in place that should be dealing with such insecurity. We've seen coordinated attack in Plateau State, in Bauchi State. So the DSS warning yesterday by Peter Afunaya urged operators of malls, among others, to be vigilant. Mr. Archie, Nigerians are so not vigilant. Each time I travel to Nigeria, it seems that maybe because say it, saute is something that has been embedded with us. Sometimes I do ask, why is this vehicle parked there? And it seems that it is odd. Some will just tell you the owner is not even around. And you wonder, why is the vehicle parking here when it's not meant to be there? Nigerians are not conscious enough to know the threat surrounding them. But those that travel into the country and the security intelligence is just advising the mall operator, the churches, the mosque to be a little bit vigilant. The DSS calls for vigilance before, that means anytime from now, the Eid celebration more, so that report had indicated plans to attack worship. It seems that again, what the late Dr. Malafia has been telling us, that there is still element of attack, as we saw it during the Owo attack in Ondo State, as we have seen it in Kaduna State. It seems again, we can only advise as many Nigerians to be vigilant. And if you see anything that is not just sure, why not say it out before it is too late?
Well, listen, it's quite an interesting one development from there. And it's all coming away from Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And as we say, we see it, we say it, and it's sorted. So we need to, I think, bring that into every one of us listeners in Nigeria as well. Mr. Madison says life situation is now unbearable. Unbearable. My goodness. But what do you think? What do you think government can do? Somebody say, well, what do you call him? Tinubu has found himself in this trouble already. He didn't actually create that, but he finds himself in that trouble. But what do you think about all that? It is Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's move on to one other story. Now, the former Lagos State ex-speaker, Ikoforiji, I hope I pronounce the name well.
Ikuforiji.
Okay, has squandered at 7 billion naira, but I think that is too huge a sum for one person to squander.
Well, there's always been, court cases that drags and drags and drags. We're going to come back to the President Bola Tinubu there. As you can see, is still in Paris. It seems that Macron understands very well, the way we can greet each other, because, you can see that yesterday, it was more of a proper hug, because Macron, from what we know, spend as much time in Lagos. We're going to come back to that. Lagos is a city. Lagos is a place that everybody, even from the north, from the southeast, from the middle belt, wants to get to, because it's just like this small London with about 20 million population. But it seems that again, those that are operating have been touching, public fund. 7 billion naira theft. The court have now adjourned the trial of the former Lagos State Speaker, Ikuforiji. Mr. Ikuforiji said his trial was based on a petition by an unknown person, alleging that he stole about 7 billion from the parliament. The Lagos Division of the Federal High Court has now adjourned the money laundering trial of Adeyemi Ikuforiji for tampering with what they called the Lagos State money. Again, as we know that if things are not put in place and money that is meant to be used are not used properly, then you can end up not getting the services. And as many Nigerians complain that Lagos State is so choked, maybe it's choked because those that are in charge, and that is is faced there, Ikuforiji. So let's go a little bit more further. The case was slated for the continuation of the trial yesterday, could not go on as the court did not sit. The courtroom where the trial judge Justice Mohammed Lima seat was closed. The case was also not heard on June 1st, and it was earlier scheduled for trial. It was learned that a new adjourned date will now be communicated to the parties. Mr. Ikuforiji is prosecuted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, alongside his former personal assistant, Oyebode Atoyebi. They are facing 54-count charge, bordering on money laundering. It is, well, I mean, if he says somebody have just reported him, well, if there's evidence, then he will have to defend himself, which is what is going on. The defendants were, however, rearranged before Justice Ibrahim following the reassignment of the case. Mr. Bubu was granted the bail of 500 million naira, each with a surety in the like sum. On September 26, 2014, Mr. Buba discharged Mr. Ikuforiji and his aide of the charges after upholding a no-case submission, but the judge that held that EFCC failed to establish a prima facie case against them. Dissatisfied with the ruling, EFCC, through its counsel, Godwin Obla, filed a notice of appeal dated. You can see that this case, it's been going on since 2014, and I can assure you it can go on till Bola Tinubu complete his tenure.
It is interesting. It is interesting, and that's what Bishop Adesina was saying. That, well, there are the people who are putting their hands in the coffers, just chopping it left, right, center. And those who, they have influence, some way, somehow, money too. But how can a judge, discharge them, saying that there's no case to answer? And now, looking at it, and they have to do something about it. But listen, as this guy already, in 11:39 the time, to go to Yomi, but you can see the president in France. Why he went to, into the exit bank. He said, you know what? You want some big loan there, Yomi.
Well, reaction is coming on the social media that the president actually traveled down there, but he didn't make any speech. I mean, it seems that he has handed over to the ambassador in Paris. Maybe for a reason known to him, we don't know. But, expectation was that the president was going to be speaking, to discuss the issues about financing, help in Nigeria, but nothing of such. I can see a lot of laughing between, giggling, the president, Macron holding each other. I think the president, Macron's wife, was trying to make some holding as well, because I saw Joe Biden as well, not leaving the hand of Modi, the Indian president, while his wife was trying to struggle to get through the control of the situation. But in reality, like I said, what is being now said by Nigerians is that the visit of Bola Tinubu to Paris, was it for pleasure? Was it really for the current support that so many Nigerians need the international community to look into? But France President Macron welcomed President Tinubu to Paris. The event, ended yesterday, so we're expecting Tinubu to be back again. There's a lot of work to be done in Nigeria over the weekend, as we do know. But like I said, the pictures speak for itself yesterday. Let's come back again. 10,000 kg of heroin, cocaine, tramadol melt were seized in Kaduna by the NDLEA. Nigeria Cyber North condemned Tinubu for failing to join the Paris Summit panel on stage. Nigerians have berated President Bola Tinubu for failing to participate in a live economic session at the ongoing summit of the world leaders in Paris. And as we do know, like we said earlier, Mr. Tinubu asked the country ambassador to represent him instead. It was not immediately clear why the president could not go on the stage by himself, especially as his office previously announced he was in France to attend the summit, participate in the debate about the economic prospect. Though it was unclear why Tinubu could not go on the stage, as we said, but as we know, a Twitter user at Ajagun Shegun said, it is only 3 weeks into his administration. Nobody has yet seen any material impact of his policies on anyone's lives, as we've been discussing this morning as well. But some brown nosy are already declaring Bola Tinubu to be the best Nigerian president has ever had. This is the best president asking another official to represent him when it matters most. Apparently, this is exactly the meaning of Bala Blue, Boo Bulu Laba. That is coming. Remember that he did this at Chatham House, but the Agbado people said it meant it trusts his people. Do you know how it looks when your president can't even speak when it should be because his old brains could go blank? This was what you get when you vote in a man who should be in old people's home, according to the Twitter handle. So you can see that the reaction is coming out. Another Twitter handle, Jax Olashupo, declared that they are still doing this teamship nonsense, noting that this is what happens when you did not win the election and got selected by INEC. And we take one more. At P. Dauda felt that Tinubu should have stayed back in Nigeria rather than going to the summit. So we take straight to the social. Okay, I'm going to come back and get to you in the studio.
It's quite an interesting one. Since he came into office, how is his health been? Has it been okay?
Looking at it from me, I think, as he was arriving in the summit yesterday, as psychology, even though we are not trained for it, but for someone that have studied and seen Tinubu before today, we know that, he's not the same Tinubu that we know as fit in 1999. But yesterday, when he was attending the summit at the beginning of the first day, you can see that the balance is not there. But as we do know, age-wise, we could also say that we know that he has some health issues just as any other person. But again, as we do say, maybe he should have stayed back or not. But being there as a president carries weight than just sending the Nigerian ambassador into that particular event. But health-wise, time will tell whether Tinubu will be flying out again, because there's a lot of rumor that he's not just attending the summit, he was just also recharging his battery cell.
Okay, is he charging his batteries? We don't know. You and I were not there. Pastor Mo says nothing good can come out of Nigeria's government. May God deliver the indigenous people. A people listener says he should have been taking medical treatment. It's alleged. That's the allegation that is going there. It's alleged to have. He should have taken medical treatment instead of going there. Maybe he's trying to be a good leader by deputizing. So get somebody there to go and talk. Maybe he lost his voice. Who knows? Well, let's go on Twitter and the social media platform with Mr. Olaibi.
There's always some good news, even though as much as the bad news seems to be what likes to trend, but there's always a good news. And we start with the good news on the social media. Let's try and drop it down a little bit so that we can get the good news. And right there is Amina, that came out with what we can call 5.0. I don't know what that means, but those that understand it will get the message. Amina Yusuf, the enigmatic young lady with a perfect 5.0 CGPA from the Faculty of Law, LASU, never in the 40 years history of the school has any student made this kind of perfect cumulative GP. Congratulations. We are proud. The governor, you can see there, gave 5 million of his own money. When they say their own money, definitely still the same money from his salary or money from the government. And he now gave 5 million from the government as well. He might have just said, we give you 10 million without really disclosing which side of the money. But politicians are always like that. I remember my cousin. No, not my cousin. Where one of my brother. In one of my visits to Nigeria, he's a politician. And each time he said to me, the reason why politicians announce that they are giving money is because sometimes, people leave their office and say, that man never gave me any money. So as the man is leaving, the politician is coming on the window and say, I just gave him 10,000 naira right now. So the politicians are used to that. But congratulations to Amina Yusuf, becoming the first graduate in 40 years, that 4 decades, to achieve a perfect CGPA in law at LASU. Amina Yusuf, how I became a first LASU undergraduate to get 5.0. And you can see, he's Muslim, dressed in Islamic. It's not about the outfit, it's about what is in the brain that matters a lot. So congratulations to Amina. And we leave that under because of the time constraint. Now let's come back to some other news trending in Nigeria. President Macron is trending. We know the reason for that because of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So that is definitely, we've actually break it down as we know. I'm looking at the AFP. This is the difference where Nigerians are not really pleased with Bola Tinubu that says, he has attended an event and yet he's not speaking. But according to the AFP 25 minutes ago, French President Macron says it's a complete consensus to reform a global financial institution. I would have loved to hear the same thing coming from the AFP, talking about what Tinubu actually said and not what our ambassador to France is saying. But again, it's just about maybe the hugging, and the throw of punch between Tinubu and Macron in another image there, which the video has actually. So it looks like Tinubu has gone for a greeting rather than speaking. So that is currently trending, and we're going to take one more of what is trending, on the social media where Nigerians make use of their voices as well. In UK, there's a breaking news. There's going to be a 5-day full workout from the 13th of July, from 7 a.m. to the 18th of July by the junior doctor. So if anybody lives in UK, we hope your appointment is not going to be falling on that particular time as well. So just what is trending generally, it's all about Nigeria. A lot of Nigerians are talking about the Ocean Gate expedition. Some have said different things. Why would you lock yourself in a 250 million cage thrown into the water for expedition? But again, if sometimes we don't take the risk, we don't get the quest. And it's just the same thing as the indigenous people under the leadership of Professor Adebanjo Akintoye says, we must find the quest, the truth, and the truth shall always prevail. And that is the reason why he will be having another town hall conversation with Ilano, Canada, where they'll be discussing everything about the progress, the unity of moving the campaign of the Yoruba Nation struggle that will also continue. With also, as other have said, that Bola Tinubu would at some point have to negotiate roundtable discussion, consultation with those that are agitating. It does not matter how long it takes, because this is a non-violent movement. So that is going to be the current situation with the movement tomorrow again, where Professor, and also called the Oracle, a professor of history that started writing the history of the Yoruba as far back as 1977 with the first draft.
Wow, listen, there's updates from Nigeria with Bishop Adesina. But then this round was bringing what is happening on social media. And Bishop Adesina says, you know what? When he was shaking hands with Macron, I was praying so that the president of Nigeria doesn't fall down. He was praying seriously. Old man, yeah. But well, we wish him the best. We wish him the best. I don't know why he had to go in there. We were not going to appear in that conference or whatever they were doing there, going to deputize someone to do so. He could have as well just stayed home and then, save some money for Nigeria. He didn't know. But again, as I did say, well, he's going to be making some money for the country. Some loans that was going to come in from the Exim Bank, I think so. Yeah, so let's see. That's another thing for us. All right then, Yummy, before we go.
Well, before you go, I was going to just say this as well from African Confidential at Bumi_speaks. Say whatever you wish about Simon Ekpa, but even Asari, their sworn enemy, could attest to the fact that he is a problem to the lawless Nigerian government, and anyone who can be put in their category sound like a true freedom fighter to me. I stand with the PM, Simon Ekpa, with my full chest. But the last one is, 30 minutes ago, this is what Boris Johnson said. Happy Independence Day, flocks. Remember, BRICS exit has already helped deliver all kinds of benefit, from the new free trade to the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe. We are doing things differently, from the genomic editing to regulation of finance services. You can never be tired of Boris Johnson, especially with his air. I remember he traveled to Lagos, and as he was coming out of the vehicle, entering the event in a hotel, he was trying to talk in his uniform, his outfit, and it's just the same Boris Johnson. It can never change.
Well, good job for you. All right, Yomi, let me say thank you very much for that wonderful update once again.
Thank you so much. And have a blessed weekend to all our listeners. Join again on Monday. Bye for now.
Bye. Well, listen, that has been Mr. Live because people are not planning studios bringing you updates from Nigeria.
All right, so I'm going to cut down the request software calling Monlo. Because of our timing this morning, I couldn't run the software before the program. So let's go on a short little break, stop the program, and then we're going to come back later. We're going to be discussing some other matters around the right to self-determination, which is the only thing we do on Koikimedia. So thank you so much, everyone. Bye for now.